Feel Good Friday edition of Locked On A's means we're putting a wrap on the week. And what a week it's been.
You are Locked On A's, your daily Oakland A's podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, it is good to see you. Nice to have you here. And welcome back. It's another episode of Locked On A's, your team every day on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Wayne Coy. I've been an A's fan since I knew what a baseball was. Longtime media guy in the Bay Area, host of a morning show, originally from Oakland, living now in Las Vegas, Nevada. And of course, there's lots going on here in town. It's a big deal this weekend in Las Vegas. So we'll talk some more about the big game in just a little bit. But one thing I want you to know before we even go any further is that this episode, this one that you're watching, is brought to you by FanDuel. I wanted to see if you'd say it before I did. FanDuel, where you can make every moment more. And you can also win some bonus bets like $200. All you got to do is make a $5 bet if you're a first-time customer and you win on a money line bet. If your $5 bet wins, $200 in bonus bets for you. Get them in. I would suggest you do that now before the big game, and that way, if you get the $200, you can hopefully use it for the big game. See? Check them out at FanDuel.com/lockedon, FanDuel.com/lockedon. Okay, what a week it's been. I think if we hit the rewind button, we go all the way back to the beginning of the week. It was a lawsuit, shot fired by our guest today on the show. And you're going to, well, it wasn't just him, but he certainly knows everything there is to know about what's going on with the lawsuit that was filed Monday, the referendum that's coming. I'm talking, of course, about Alexander Marx. We had part one yesterday of our conversation, and now today we'll get you part two. That's coming up in just a few minutes. But yesterday was interesting. Rob Manfred, Commissioner of Baseball, basically was asked, how he feels things are going with the Oakland A's. And what's he going to say? He's the Commissioner of Baseball. He really wants to see this whole thing happen. I mean, he's been pretty adamant about that. But he also had to say, we need to know what's going on. Because as you know, after this year, the lease is up at the Oakland Coliseum. Where will the A's play? Who knows? Sacramento, maybe. Salt Lake City, maybe. San Francisco, could be. How about Las Vegas in a minor league park? Sure, why not? They have that spring training field in Arizona. What about that? Well, it's too hot, but yeah, maybe. They could be in my backyard for all I know. And I do know this. You can kind of read Rob Manfred as the Commissioner of Baseball. We've started to kind of figure him out. He's been there long enough. He first of all, is not a great public speaker. I think he even knows that. He would probably admit that. Second thing is he tends to step on a rake quite often. And when he talks himself into a corner, it's really fun to watch. So here's the quote from Commissioner Manfred. Right after MLB's owners' meetings, it's hard. He's talking about the A's and needing to know where they're going to be. It's hard, even scheduling, although it's clearly going to be someplace in the West. There's a difference between some places in the West and other places in the West. It kind of reminds me of, the Brady Bunch, okay? Mr. Brady, remember when he said, wherever you go, kids, there you are. It's that kind of a statement from Rob Manfred. Just a goober. Okay, I'll say that word. I can. Manfred declined to say how many or which locations remain in contention. I was getting kind of a Sacramento vibe from him. I'll admit that. Now, if that's going to happen, that means that the Giants, AAA team, the River Cats, are going to have to be okay with sharing the stadium with the A's. Now, the one thing I do know is that the A's games are on television in Sacramento. So maybe, just maybe, some of their existing TV contract would actually be able to bridge the gap if they end up, did I say the gap? I did, didn't I? Sorry. Yeah, some of their TV contract would maybe be able to stay in place. I can almost bet money that $70 million that they put out last year, that ain't happening if they leave the Bay Area after 2024, which is quite likely. We'll have to wait and see. He says, I'm comfortable with where they are in the process. They have options. I think they're doing a good job of exploring them and making sure that we have the best possible option. In other words, this is a dumpster fire, and I don't know how it's going to end, so I'm not going to say too much. All right. Then we had the mayor of Las Vegas saying basically the A's belong in Oakland. Well, didn't she basically say it? She said it. I personally think the A's have got to figure out a way to stay in Oakland to make their dream come true. I love the people from Oakland. I think they deserve to have their team. Carolyn Goodman, mayor of the city of Las Vegas. And don't get technical with me, okay? I can't believe this. People are saying, well, technically the Strip is not Las Vegas, it's Paradise. So she's the mayor of Las Vegas, not Paradise. So that means her opinion doesn't mean squat. Okay, last I checked, when people land here and they go to the Strip, they get on a plane that says Las Vegas. Hey, where are you going this weekend? Vegas, baby, right? Las Vegas. What happens here stays here, not Paradise. Paradise. What happens here, nobody says that because it's Vegas. It might be technically in Paradise, but you ask anybody on the Strip, where are you right now? They'll say on the Strip. And what city are you in? Las Vegas. 9 out of 10. 9.5 out of 10. Nobody is going to say Paradise. So for any of you in the comments that have been trying to get like particular with me on that, especially about the mayor, forget it. Okay, nobody in Paradise doesn't feel like they live in Las Vegas. Same thing with Henderson, same thing with Summerlin, and yes, I pointed in the right directions. All right, I'm a Bay Area guy living in Vegas. I can tell you a lot of what people say is happening or could be happening or is being felt is bull, okay? Just isn't happening. I'll tell you what is happening. It's the Super Bowl, and I can say it. I didn't have to say the big game because we're talking about FanDuel. They've earned the right to be able to say Super Bowl. They are America's #1 sports book. FanDuel, they got it going on. What do? Well, let me tell you. What they do is they give you an app. You download the app, and when you're done, you get involved in all the fun that is the Super Bowl. And it's probably the greatest game in the world to be able to bet on because there's so many ways for you to end the football season having a great time. You pick a prop bet, you pick a spread bet, you go under, you go over, whatever you're into, a $5 money line bet. If you get that right, you get $200 in bonus bets from our friends at FanDuel. Take advantage of that. Bet on how many points are going to be scored. Bet on, whether we see Taylor Swift or not. I wonder if that's even going to be a prop. It probably will be. And I think her plane's going to make it from Japan. But anyway, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. And you can sign up, get that $5 bet in, money line bet. You win it. You get the $200 in bonus bets, which is outrageous, to quote Lionel Richie. We're talking about FanDuel, FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. Okay, we had that conversation yesterday with the guy. He's been on our show before. We love having him on. Alexander Marx, who is, of course, with Schools Over Stadiums. You heard part 1 of our interview yesterday. Here is part 2. Alexander Marx is here, and this is part 2 of our conversation talking about kind of a two-pronged fight. You're suing, I guess you're suing the lobbyists, and you're suing the A's, and you'll sue anybody that wants to put a stadium at Tropicana and Vegas Boulevard.
Yeah. So in this instance, our lawsuit that we filed this week is actually against the state of Nevada, Governor Lombardo, and the Treasurer Zach Conine. Reason we did that is because it's a legislative matter. It's a bill. They're the ones who have signed it and are tasked with enforcing it. So the lawsuit would be against them declaring Senate Bill 1 unconstitutional. So very excited about this. I know we've kind of been saying for a few months that we were going to file this. I think we started that press release back in November.
Right.
Our
So it's
team's
not a
been
surprise, right? I mean, we
No,
knew this
it's
was coming.
correct. So, we kind of laid forth our claims back in November. I don't know if folks just thought we were bluffing, but, sometimes it just takes a little bit to write a good complaint. We just wanted to make sure every duck was in a row and all that kind of stuff. So we've got, I think the tandem kind of parallel paths, but, our commitment and the Nevada educators' commitment to blocking the use of public funds for the stadium project since June has only grown stronger. That's, having Oakland fans by our side. That's constant research. That's just the general vibe in the public. I think the only people who are excited about this project are actually receiving a paycheck from John Fisher. So we've.
I didn't get mine, by the way. Did you get yours?
I have not gotten a paycheck
$10,000 checks. I didn't.
I get plenty of dirty
Alex.
looks. I get plenty of dirty looks from Dave Cavill at these events, but I haven't gotten any paychecks. But so we identified five sections of the Nevada State Constitution that we think Senate Bill 1 violates. What's cool or interesting, I guess, we could either totally invalidate the bill or we could partially invalidate the bill. But I think that goes back to kind of what I was saying in the previous episode of the House of Cards, right? Is it death by 1,000 cuts? If we move 5 million out, does the thing collapse? If it's 10 million, is it 50 million? We remember from the special session, they needed every dime of that 380 million. So if we take away $10, obviously it's a nominal amount, but I don't know how broke this guy is. I don't know what the banks are telling him right now. I know we haven't seen a financing plan, so that's, I'd be troubled if I were on that end of things. But just for the listeners, and I don't have to give a legal symposium, but I'll just go through quickly kind of some of the 5 claims that we're looking at. And what's different about this compared to the referendum is this isn't the voters saying, we agree with this policy at all. This is basically just saying you hastily threw together this Senate bill. You ignored everybody involved. You rushed it through and you made a lot of mistakes doing that. And this is a procedural thing. You just screwed up. So we think that because this bill created public revenue through the seat licensing provisions in the bill, that would require a 2/3 majority vote in each house because it's generating new taxation or revenue. This bill does not have that under its licensing provision. So we think that provision of the Nevada Constitution is violated rather. Right. There's an appropriation clause violation because the bill fails to authorize the bill authorizes the Nevada treasurer to basically draw an unspecified amount to prop up Clark County's bonds. There's no formula involved to kind of determine whatever that amount is. And because there is ambiguity there, rather, it violates that section of the Constitution. An interesting one that our lawyers found was the requirement to demonstrate why a law can't be a general law. So what I mean by that is in Senate Bill 1, it specifically mentions that Tropicana and Las Vegas Boulevard corner, right?
It's so specific, yeah.
Right. So SB 1, we're arguing, is a local law because it operates over Clark County instead of a whole territory in Nevada. So basically, they failed to say why that specific corner had to be the location as opposed to Henderson or North Las Vegas or Reno for that matter. Like what makes that so specific that it needed to be there? And they don't have the language about a population. There's language missing. So we think it's defective on its face because of that reason.
Do you think that had to do with the fact that they had been at the Wild Wild West site and flipped within a week?
Absolutely. Right? And I think that's kind of the irony, I think. And I was one of the first in the team to kind of point that out because I think I was like, how ironic would it be that they trusted John Fisher so little to not renege on the deal that they locked him down to that specific site at the Trop, only to violate this section of the Constitution, which says, well, that's not specific enough. That you could have put that anywhere. Why here?
Well, I will tell you this. My former morning show partner's gym teacher, when he was in junior high school, had a famous saying, and Jay would share that with our listeners from time to time, because she would pull him in, look him in the eye and say, Mr. Hastings, speed is a detriment to accuracy.
Yep.
They were in a big ass hurry. Okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I'm not surprised that all the I's didn't get dotted and T's didn't get crossed.
Yeah.
And that's benefit you.
Yep.
Or us. Yeah. So I want to talk about that for a second, if we can shift gears, because you're suing them, and I think I got my head around that. Hopefully, everybody watching this does too. But let's talk about the referendum, because that's a big undertaking, and the clock is ticking. You're waiting for, as you said when we were together earlier, you're waiting for the Supreme Court to come up with a judgment, either to side with you or side with them because they won in the first round, or to turn it around and say, no, we don't think there's a problem, go ahead, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what do you do?
Well, so we're waiting any day now for that matter. And in the meantime, we're fundraising. So hopefully when that happens, we're just hitting the ground running. We're going to get some vendors out there. We're going to get people gathering signatures. We've got a laundry list of volunteers ready to come out, and whether that's from Oakland or anywhere for that matter. I've got exactly right, Wayne. We're ready to go. And I think, we're excited about that. I think, whether it's the lawsuit or referendum, the goal is to prevent public funds from going to this stadium. I think when you're seeing, comments from the mayor of Las Vegas, and before everybody goes, the stadium's in, unincorporated Clark County, fine. The sentiment exists regardless of where the city lines. If you're arguing municipalities on this, you've already lost your argument. But I think when you see those types of statements, you see his reception at the Chamber of Commerce. You see the lack of renderings. You see no financing plan. Nobody wants this stadium here. I think
I got taken to task by some locals about that very, very specific thing, because I've been saying since Jump Street, I live here. I'm not feeling this. Where's the local contingency that's, all let's go A's and standing up and talking about how great it's going to be to have the Athletics in Las Vegas? I haven't seen them because they don't exist, as you know. And there's a
Los Angeles.
I was like to point. We saw that the Chamber of Commerce reaction, or lack of, you could insert the crickets there. That is exactly the apathy that exists out there on the streets. It's a real thing.
That's his audience. That was the people, or those were the people he thought would empty their pockets for him for an equity stake. And instead he got greeted with a room. And I think I joked that it was so silent in there, you could hear Stomper drop a peanut. It was that dead silent. But I think, and the point I like to make too, and it's Super Bowl week. When we built our first publicly funded stadium, everybody said, oh, we're going to bring in so much revenue. It's going to be amazing. We're going to have so much wealth and prosperity and all the education woes and blah, blah, blah. I don't see how a second publicly funded stadium is going to do that. We were I think 46th in the nation before that opened. We're now 48th, 49th, depending on where you look. So you're kind of going, we get it. You're selling us nonsense. And I think people are starting to get that with the A's stadium more so than they got that with the Raiders, because we literally have a double the size stadium that we paid double the amount for. We got, that was $750 million. It seats 65,000. The A's are, 30,000 and, 380 million. So about half of the size almost and half of the cost. Well, if the first one didn't solve all of our problems, how is the second one going to do that? And I think people, and that's a testament to, the work that Oakland fans are doing with us, and, the work we're all doing really to I guess, blow the lid off how nonsensical it is to make these claims about publicly funded stadiums. And I think that feeds into the lack of excitement, where people are like, they're attuned to it. I know a lot of folks go, oh, they don't pay attention until November when the election. People are always paying attention, and they're paying attention on this because when the school bus is late, or there isn't a school bus at all to take your student to a class that has a permanent substitute teacher, you don't care about a stadium. You care about essential services. And we're not in great shape as a state when it comes to public education. And those are issues that parents, students, et cetera, see every single day. And when they see 380 million going to a stadium, they're going, I don't need 30,000 seats in a stadium. I need more school desks in my classroom. Those are where the seats are needed. Sure. And at the end of the day, that's our North Star. It's fun to chat about all the chamber comments and the lack of renderings. But at the end of the day, that's why we got involved, is because the misguided priorities of our public education are abysmal. And I think that's what folks are really attuned to right now locally, which is why there's no excitement.
So Are you surprised that you haven't got, I mean, to me, it makes sense that you'd get the support of the Oakland A's fans. Our fan base is loyal. Our fan base loves this baseball team, or at least wants to. And the idea of losing it, which is really a multi-generational heirloom after 56 years, anybody that could provide us the opportunity to still suck on the hopium pipe for a while, well, we're going to be kind of into that, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And this was a very early, wait a second, because you're right. The points you make are all great. Are they resonating with Nevadans to the degree that when it does, I'm going to be positive here, when it gets on the ballot and the referendum is there to vote yes or no on, are the people locally, do you feel like they are as emotionally into this as the guy who wants to sit, in the second deck at the Coliseum?
Yeah, I think it's just a weird apathy of, I think it's interesting because we have the Golden Knights, right? And I think they're and the Aces. I think those are two great examples of just homegrown. We're excited to go. We wish them well. And then there's just the weird kind of like the Raiders where it's like, I think I joked where I'm like, oh, okay, so the Chiefs and 49ers are playing. Is that a home game for both? Because
right.
You go to any of those games here, there's more red than there are black and silver.
It's true.
So I just think, it's being forced upon us. I think every aspect of this entire deal has just been one hurdle. I think that what's interesting to me is the easiest part. So we all know every single speed bump John Fisher and the A's have had to go over. It's one, it's like that Simpsons clip with Sideshow Bob stepping on the rakes. That's basically what their entire operation is. But what I like to point out is the easiest thing that they have done this entire process is convince Nevada politicians to waste taxpayer money on this. And that's a shame.
Right.
That's the easiest thing that has happened to them. That should be the hardest because they have not made their case to the public. Yet for some reason, politicians said, okay, and then opened up the state coffers and said, build a stupid stadium because the first one was so great. And I think that just put a bad taste in people's mouths. But I think, the partnership that Oakland and Schools Over Stadiums and now Strong Public Schools have accomplished, like, I don't want to say we've muddied the water. I think we've won the messaging war. And I think folks see that every day, and it's a repetition of how bad the deal is. Like, I get it, from a personal level, people hate John Fisher. That is what it is. Like, people have their experience, but in terms of the economics, the optics, the priorities, Nevadans are getting it. Like they have figured it out. And I think that's why you haven't seen a whole lot of fanfare from the people who actually voted for this bill. They're not proud of it. Privately, I know some of them are regretting the vote because I don't think they understood what they were getting themselves into. And I think, again, it's funny to joke about the renderings. It's funny to joke about all these dumb little missteps that they're making. But I think it's indicative of the larger point that they didn't do their homework on who they were giving money to. They got blinded by the new shiny object and they put everything else on the back burner. So at least in the regular session for 2 weeks, that's all they wanted to focus on was baseball. That was more fun than actually, taking care of essential services like paying teachers a 20% salary increase or making sure kids have a universal school lunch bill signed. Again, that was a bill that the governor vetoed literally the day after the stadium was signed into law.
How ironic was that?
Yeah, it's just it's that kind of stuff that folks are paying attention to, and Oakland fans have been fantastic with pointing that out and the hypocrisy. They're holding our elected officials more accountable than most folks have in 10 years, and they're not used to that approach. But I love it because that's the kind of stuff of like you cast a very bad vote that was a misuse of our funds for a misguided project for a billionaire who clearly didn't, care too much about our community. I mean, they don't even want to play in Summerlin during their little like sabbatical for 3 years, whatever you want to call where they're a roving team. So I just think,
somebody said bingo long and the traveling all-stars,
Yeah. Like is it possible for them to have no home games? Maybe they're just an away team for 3. I don't know. But the ridiculousness of all that falls to the Nevada legislature, in my opinion, because they didn't know what they were getting into. And when they get guys like Jeremy Aguero to get paid to say whatever they're supposed to get paid to say, this is the
you get Jeremy Aguero for the record. This is what you get. I mean, you have to vet bills better. You have to have better priorities. And this whole thing is just, I think I called it, I had an interview the other day where I called this a monument to our misguided priorities. Like, if the stadium ever gets built, and we're going to work our butts off to make sure that never happens, that's all it's going to be. We're going to keep slipping in every little score or every little grade. And we're going to have a beautiful stadium where the Tropicana used to be, to remind everybody that when we really needed the legislature to step up, they built a stadium instead.
I kind of almost don't want to say anything else. Let's let that just sort of resonate. Okay. Alexander Marx is our guest, NSEA. How do we get involved? If we want to be activists, if we live in Nevada or California, how do we become a part of your mission and help you get to your goal?
So you can go to schoolsoverstadiums.com. There's the primary links we want you to click are either volunteer or donate. Donating, and let me just dispel anybody who's like, oh, you're paying blah, blah, blah. Every dollar that goes into Schools Over Stadiums goes towards our referendum and our efforts to kill this stadium deal and keep our public money in our public schools and keep the A's in Oakland. I've heard people say, oh, you're going to be donating to candidates. Nothing like that. Every dollar is going towards stopping this stadium project, period. Okay. And we need as many donations as we can get. If you know some of those Oakland institution folks, that's, the high dollars are where we're at. That's where we're trying to go. But every dollar is going to help us get to where we can. I
thought of one, Debbie Fields, Mrs. Fields Cookies.
Yes.
She's a former ball girl for the Oakland A's.
Oh, really?
In the 70s. Oh, yeah. Famous
I didn't know
for
that.
So I think somebody needs to talk to Debbie, because I know her heart is with the A's for sure. I bet Mark Davis would write a check. He doesn't want.
Yeah, I think I don't have a whole lot of contacts with them, but it's just again, like, we're confident about the signatures. It's the money game, right? Like that's right. We know that's going to be the biggest uphill battle, because it's hard to raise grassroots money like this, and in normal times, we would go to our union folks and our other institutional here in Vegas or Nevada rather, but they're all unfortunately on the other side supporting the stadium deal because they might get the job if there ever is one. And then a lot of those folks run the payroll too. And fine, normally we're at the same side of the table on them. Today, we had an issue at the finance committee, and AFL-CIO called in our favor and culinary called in support. Like, we're not angry with each other, just on different sides of the issue on this one, and it happens. But those are normally the folks that we would pool together our resources and get this on the ballot with. It's just not an avenue at this point.
So if you don't have the money and you want to be boots on the ground, that's okay too, though, right?
Absolutely. Like, we'll, time or money. So if you want to help us gather signatures and do that, that's more than well, any help can you give. I think it's going to take a community. And I think, the folks who are most passionate about this are also the ones who want to get out there and gather signatures as well.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you at Fans Fest. I'm looking forward to seeing you there in Oakland on the 24th.
Are you going to be there too?
Oh, of course. And they just announced today Coco Crisp is going to
be there.
Coco
Crisp. I'm excited.
Excited about that. So we'll see you there. And you certainly have the support from Locked On A's every step of the way. So thank you very much, Alexander. Appreciate that.
Sure. Thanks, Wayne.
Alexander Marx, NSEA on Locked On A's. Oh, man, that was a good conversation. Nice to now know as much as we know about what they're doing, right? Get under the hood a little bit. That's a good thing. Real quick, I'm going to give you my big game pick, and I'm going to give you the formula that I used to get to that pick. But before I do, first things first, yes, my dog was in the room. That was Louie that you were hearing. That was his chain as he was, I don't know what he was doing, except being annoying. That's Louie right there. Can you see him? Yeah, that's him. Okay. That is the guy that about 10 minutes ago growled, and it sounded like I farted. I did not. He growled. Okay. I just heard that back. I was like, everybody's going to think I ripped one. I didn't, I swear. Also, I know that it's contingent, not contingency. A group of people, a contingent from the Athletics, not a contingency. I know that. You know what else I know? I know it's time to change the lights and tell you all about our friends at Ibotta. Ibotta, what are they doing? Well, it's soup season. So you want to make sure you get all your ingredients that you need to master your recipe while you're getting cash back on your purchase. Cash back, that's what Ibotta is all about. It's a free app. You want to check it out. It gives you the most cash back every single time that you shop on hundreds of items, not just groceries, beauty supplies, toys, stereos, all of that stuff. You can make sure that you are beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns about $145 a year. Not bad. That could actually cover the cost of, maybe a ticket to your favorite show or a nice dinner out. Valentine's Day is coming. Wouldn't it be cool if you had the money just sitting there because you got it cash back from Ibotta? 50 million people are saving money with Ibotta. You can too. Earn cash back every single time you shop. And we're talking about places like Lowe's and Macy's and Sephora and Best Buy, a whole bunch more, like 2,700 brands. All right. You go get your app. It's Ibotta, the Ibotta app, offering our Locked On A's listeners $5 just for trying it out. Okay? It costs you nothing. They're going to give you $5 cash back just for trying it. Locked On MLB, that's the code. Use it when you register. Just go to the App Store. If you're an Apple person or if you're Android, you know what it is, right? It's the Google Play Store. But download the app and start saving with Ibotta, and you can do that today. Today. Okay, big game. Ready? Here we go. This is exactly how we got there. First of all, I'm in a mixed marriage. I'm a Raider fan married to a 49er fan. I'm a Raider fan. I hate the Chiefs. So you know which way I'm going. I want a happy wife, happy life. And even though I don't really like the Niners, I really don't like the Chiefs, okay? Even though I am the voice of a current commercial that is running with Patrick Mahomes throwing a football around the sphere. If you see that, that's me. Okay, here's how we're going to pick the winner. You ready? Brock Purdy. What number does that young quarterback, Mr. Irrelevant, what number does he wear? 13. Check it out. 49ers. 4 plus 9 is 13. Super Bowl 58. 5 plus 8 is 13. The game is being played on 2/11. 11 plus 2 is 13. This one's in the bag, okay? It's Brock Purdy. It's 13. It's all those lucky numbers. It's the 49ers. Not in a blowout. I think it's a close game. But I'm sorry, Taylor Swift. I do believe this game is going to go to the San Francisco 49ers. And if it doesn't, I'm going to erase this and pretend I never said that. Thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking. Thumbs up is great. I'm Wayne Coy. I'll catch you again. It's your team every day, Locked On A's. Until next time, you keep on swinging.